And what's the vision?
The vision is to empower, train, and mobilize young people to tackle climate action projects on the local level, right? And pay them to do so through the civic service model.
Like 5 years out, what would it look like?
Our dream scenario, somewhere between 5 and 10 years from now, is that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of young people across the country serving in very localized climate action projects. So basically, any young person in Greece knows that they could go to our website or find an opportunity with Ecogenia in their community, or perhaps in a community they would like to travel to or like to work in. So that's kind of the big vision in the next 5 or 10 years. I'm Greek American. So my father came from Xanthi up in the north. When he was 18, he moved to the States and met my mom. So first, my father was an immigrant. So I really feel close to the country as a Greek American does. We came back every summer. It's hard to articulate to people that aren't Greek American. I'm sure there's other diasporas that have similar experiences, but it really feels like a second home, even though prior to now I had never lived here. I feel very emotionally connected, and I am calling you from the foothills of Mount Olympus, which is where my yaya is from. It's the region of Greece that I've always come back to. And I like to use it as an example because it's a completely overlooked part of Greece, in my opinion, by Greeks and by tourists, in my opinion. Tourists for sure, right? Tourists for sure. They go to the islands, they go to the coastline, understandably so. But Greece is 85% mountains, which is mind blowing. I just learned that pretty recently, actually. And there's so much history, culture, richness, biodiversity. I mean, you name it, unique culinary dishes, dances. I mean, the culture and the storytelling from the mountains is distinct, and it's not explored. And these small villages are dying, like the region we did our pilot. Young people have left, obviously, because there's a lack of jobs. So they go to the cities, and it's a common story all over Greece. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of villages just like the ones I was describing, all over the country. And so there's really a big opportunity to be thinking about innovatively about how to bring life back to those regions, whether it's by distributing some of those tourism dollars up into these small areas, if they have hiking trails, if they have different ways to showcase nature, conservation efforts, bird watching, running, hiking, biking, mountain biking, you name it. There's so much possibility here, and to do it responsibly, right? So to not let it become, where we're taking advantage of these natural resources because we want to play in them all the time, but actually go and learn and, just immerse yourself in the beauty of these kind of more remote areas, and learning from the people that have chosen to stay there, because they are really special people. And so, yeah, it's a whole big opportunity. And here, I told you I'm calling you from Mount Olympus area. It is starting to get a bit more attention, but again, we're at this beautiful moment of opportunity right now where Mount Olympus is starting to get some attention. It's now a national park. Potentially it will get some funding, but we want to make sure it's done responsibly, right? It's a massive mountain range. There's 55 peaks. The foothills have their own beautiful, unique features, like for rock climbing, canyoning. I mean, there's so much to do in this area, but doing it responsibly, and again, with the environment in mind, is something that really needs to be done carefully and thoughtfully. So, and of course, Greece has some of the most diverse flora and fauna in Europe, definitely, and I think in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And there's just so much richness here beyond beautiful beaches, which I'm a beach person. I love the beach, but Greece has so much more to offer. Not only tourists, but other Greeks too, and thinking about how to showcase all of this and preserve the culture and the heritage.
Talk to me about these pilot programs. You guys have done so much in this first year.
Basically, in our first pilot project, we were entering a community that in general, in Greece, people are skeptical of nonprofits. There is unfortunately a history of some, mismanagement, and there's some mistrust in the public space and, how they feel about nonprofits. So we already knew we were going to be facing some level of skepticism going into these smaller communities, but our pilot took place in a rural village in the mountains behind Nafaktos, some small villages. Alpachori and Zoriano were the two main ones we were working in this spring. And we were connecting the villages through a trail network. And this is a trail network that they've been trying to build and put into place for years, but have never had the resources to do so. So we were coming in and helping them implement a plan that they had in their minds. And the idea is to bring life back to the village. I think only 3 to 5 people live in these villages year round. They get up into the hundreds in the summer for the holidays and for the summer season. But, year round, there's a special type of person that stays up there. And the one taverna owner, there's a taverna in each village, and they have their history, they have their conflicts like any small community, small town would. And really, when we entered the community, the taverna owner this one in particular was a bit skeptical of us, giving us a hard time and in a fun way, joking, but still, we were a bit concerned that we weren't going to quite win him over. He's a hunter, and some of the cohort members were vegetarians, so he liked to tease them about that. Just an old school, Greek mountain villager who owns this taverna. And by the end of the 10 weeks of us being there, he went from, kind of always poking fun at us and of the kids, playing with them, to being so sentimentally and emotionally attached to them. He was crying the entire last few days we were there, so sad that we were leaving, that the project was wrapping up, and just so touched that these young people had chosen to spend 10 weeks of their time contributing to, the betterment of his community. And he even, really swallowed his pride, and he came to the other village, to the other taverna, and kind of made amends with, his competitor, if you will, to celebrate with us. And it was really a beautiful moment in the community. A big olive branch was kind of given in that way. And the young people really enabled these two villages to come together in a way that they hadn't in decades. So that was incredibly rewarding. And I think the young people, especially, they knew they had won him over, and they knew how hard of a task that would be. And the fact that we were able to have this nice climax of everybody enjoying some time together, enjoying a meal together, and dancing and celebrating was incredible. And some anecdotes about the current cohort, because that was the first pilot, which was in the spring. And right now we have our second pilot in Hanya. Very different than small rural village with 3 people. Hanya is a very cosmopolitan, very beautiful, dynamic city, with totally different challenges. We're learning every day. So many more stakeholders involved, kids, families, schools, headmasters, the city of Hanya, which is just much, much, much bigger, obviously. So I've been learning a lot, and honestly, it was part of our pilot strategy to test in 2 different places, a very rural place and also more of a city, and not start in Athens, because we also do believe true sustainable development needs to happen outside of just Athens, right? We need to be thinking about creating job opportunities outside of Athens, right? We can't have every young person moving and working into the city. So anyway, but in Hanya, one of our cohort members actually decided to leave her work in Copenhagen. She's a Greek that also has been living abroad, and she came back to the country. She saw this as an opportunity to come back, which is amazing. So another example of brain gain through our project. And something that has been amazing, we've had some just informal conversations with these young people, over dinners or in between work projects. And many of them during COVID, and obviously in the past couple of years, have felt a lot of despair and hopelessness. One of them even said, she said she watched a nature environmental documentary and couldn't get out of bed for 2 days because she was so depressed about the state of the world, the state of the environment, and the lack of effort that she felt her peers and her country were doing, right? She just felt this overwhelming fear and feeling of despair. But she said that by coming to Kenya and meeting other like-minded people, right, all of a sudden you're creating community and you're working on something practical. And there's that famous quote, action is the antidote to despair, right? So by coming together, meeting peers who care about the same things she does and working on something practical, it's allowing her to move from hopelessness to feeling hopeful, right? And feeling like there is a purpose to her work and that she can do something, right? And many of them have been sharing that the coming together aspect of our work, it's so qualitative and it's so hard to articulate, but that's really where the magic happens. It's by bringing young people together from different walks of life, different parts of Greece, different backgrounds, but all with similar values, right? They all care about, having an impact and contributing to climate solutions and helping their community, right? They have all that in common automatically, no matter where else they come from. And that's been such a beautiful thing to see come alive, because like I was saying before, for 2 years, we had this theory of change. We thought we knew what would happen if we brought young people together to work on these things, but seeing it come to life and hearing from the cohort members themselves how much this means to them, it's amazing. And that's really where the magic is, because they will go on, hopefully, to stay in touch, right? And maybe one of them will work in a senior leadership position at some company, and they'll have this experience that they can pull on to think about how to be collaborative, how to think dynamically about climate solutions. Maybe another one will work at a guest house, but will be able to take the same learnings into that job, right? How can this guest house compost? How can they be more environmentally sound in their different practices, or choosing what food they cook? There's always a way to be applying this kind of climate mindset. And so that's also what I'm really excited about, are these ripple effects. What's going to happen to this group in 5, 10, 15 years from now? And especially how they stay in touch and what kind of beautiful thing that can bring that we can't even articulate. I mean, I decided after my AmeriCorps year to come and start this in Greece, right? So who knows what these young people will be inspired to do.
I just really want to acknowledge you for what you guys have accomplished in 1 year. And just, you and I have chatted in the past, how hard it is to start a nonprofit in Greece and not even being from Greece. So really, I'm just blown away and inspired by I'm a huge fan of you and the organization. And I haven't connected with a lot of the team, but Melina and Mary and Damien, just extraordinary people on the team. And obviously I want anybody that sees this, I want them to support financially. Is there anything else that you'd like to just get across? Anything else you want to make sure people know about you or the organization at this point?
I would say we are a youth-led team. We have a very, very big vision for the country that does feel achievable by both our team, by the stakeholders we speak to, by the cohort members that are now working with us. Everybody is energized and believes in this vision. Frankly, the biggest hurdle we have is financial resources. We have the communities that would like to have the projects. We have a pipeline of young people that would like to be cohort members, right? We have so many ideas on projects we could execute alongside these communities. So we're ready. We have all the pieces on the chessboard. We have eager participants. It's just about making sure the funding is there to make it happen and helping us reach that kind of long-term viability, which comes with different stakeholder engagement, but that takes a lot of work. So the more kind of financial support we can get, the more likely we can continue to scale this as quickly as it needs to be scaled, because it is a climate crisis. It's a crisis, right? And we need to be able to leverage those resources and to really take action and make sure that by 2030, this generation is equipped to help us get to net zero, frankly.